Welcome to Sincerely Bhakti, episode 19, Fear to Love, Learn to Love. Reading from Bhagavad-gītā as it is, commentary by Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, reading chapter 4, verse 10. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me, and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. So I found that the linchpin for this verse is the phrase matbhavam, which means transcendental love for me. So if love is the goal, then we have to ask ourselves, what gets in the way of that goal? And just like in any relationship in this world, we bring baggage to a relationship. So if we're going to have a relationship with God, we also bring baggage to that relationship. And Krishna mentions 3 pieces of baggage: attachment, fear, and anger. And these 3 things all revolve around the concept that God is a person. So Srila Prabhupada elucidates these 3 things as actual stages. So they are sequential, and so they start with attachment. So attachment's an interesting piece of baggage in our relationship with God, because it really means that I'm attached to this body. It starts with feeling really identified with this current body. So Prabhupada writes here, in the materialistic concept, the body is perishable, full of ignorance, and completely miserable. Completely miserable, right? Being in this body, there's old age, there's disease. It's constantly creating disgusting byproducts. I was thinking, even a strand of hair, one strand of hair, if it was in my soup, I would be disgusted and lose my appetite, right? Or you could say, oh, my hand is so nice. But if you detached a finger from my hand, that would be disgusting. So if it's detached from spirit and life, then the body is actually, in essence, it's kind of disgusting. And so the problem is that if I believe this body is disgusting, and I really identify with this body, then I'm going to superimpose that onto God if he is a person and has a form. Prabhupada writes here, therefore, people in general keep the same bodily idea in mind when they are informed of the personal form of the Lord. So this is why this piece of baggage revolves around the reality that God is a person, because if I'm a person and I exchange love with another person, we both have forms. So if I'm informed that God is a person and has a form, that means, he must have a body that is miserable and it will perish and it creates disgusting byproducts. How is that divine? That doesn't seem like a very divine relationship or something I want to buy into. So because of that attachment to this body, it gets in the way of a relationship with God. So that attachment leads to fear, which I find the most powerful and essential aspect of these stages, because it means that I'm afraid of loving God because he's a person. And on a much deeper level, it means that I could be betrayed at any moment. Even if I have a perfectly loving and healthy relationship, if the body is perishable, then my beloved could die, and then they're gone forever. And the idea of a broken heart for eternity is a very scary concept, because love means free will. It also means that my beloved could leave me. It means I could leave my beloved. Love means free will. So if that means being locked into a relationship for eternity where heartbreak is an everyday reality, then why would I want to have a relationship with God? That's very scary. I'd rather have peace. So Srila Prabhupada writes here, when they are informed that spiritual life is also individual and personal, they become afraid of becoming persons again. So being a person and having a form can be very scary. And also, the conception of retaining the personality after liberation from matter frightens them. And I found it fascinating that fear and this being afraid of exchanging a loving relationship with God as a person is the foundation for this piece of baggage that gets in the way of actually cultivating love. And we can see it even in our lives, that often if we're afraid of a loving relationship because we might get hurt, that gets in the way. It's baggage that weighs down a relationship. And so that fear leads to the third stage, which is anger. And so this sense of frustration. So many different philosophies emphasize God's a person, or maybe God is not a person. There is just energy. This can be very bewildering. And, Prabhupada writes here that being embarrassed by so many theories and by contradictions of various types of philosophical speculation, they become disgusted or angry and foolishly conclude that there is no supreme cause and that everything is ultimately void. So there's this frustration and wanting to give up trying to have a loving relationship, but it doesn't really work because we're all looking for love, and we're looking to be loved and receive love and give love. So these pieces of baggage, attachment, fear, and anger, get in the way of truly attaining love for Krishna or for God. So what's nice about this verse is that Krishna does reassure Arjuna, and he says many, many persons in the past have attained love for him. So he's saying it's possible. You can do it. You can do it. Just follow the process. And what is that process? Prabhupada writes that this process for devotion means that I need to take refuge or take shelter of God, surrender to him within my heart. And in that process, I take shelter of a teacher who can guide me. And then through being guided by a teacher and that surrender, I also follow principles of a devotional life, because that actually shows my sincerity. The science of self-realization means that it's a replicable process, that anyone can do it. So it takes a little bit of the romance out of it. If I'm going to love God, shouldn't it be a little more romantic than just following a step-by-step process? But if it is a step-by-step process, that means I can do it. Anyone can do it. We just need to follow and trust that relationship will come. And of course, it's not about engaging in a mechanical, dry relationship with God, but it means let me do my part to be qualified and to open my heart. So in this way, we're a little afraid to love, but we can also drop that baggage and learn to love and open our hearts to that. So thank you for tuning in to episode 19, Fear to Love, Learn to Love. I'll see you next time. Hare Krishna.